So it is November 7th at about almost 7 p.m. here in Israel, almost 12 p.m. on the eastern coast of the United States. It is the 32nd day of the war, and let's get started. So let's start with good news first. And so Israel has taken over a tremendous amount of Hamas territory. I know we start off that way every single video, but it's true. Every single video where we're just seeing more and more success and territory where you take it over. Now there is resistance, meaning not just in territory that Israel takes over, but once Israel takes over territory, Hamas sort of regroups around that territory that Israel has recently taken and fights back and resists against it. So Israel is breaking that resistance as well. That's not having as much success. At the same time, Hezbollah, whenever Israel is under heavy fire by Gaza, Hezbollah starts up in the north to sort of distract Israeli leadership. It's not having the desired effect that Hezbollah wants. Israel's fighting just as strong in Gaza as they are in the north, and just as strong in the north as they are in Gaza. So it's Israel is really being able to be the master of both areas and being able to control the attacks in both areas. And we're seeing slowly but surely, we're seeing great success and great movements on both fronts. Israel is also gaining a tremendous amount of information, both from Hamas members that are taken captive in interrogations when they tell them information, and also in documents and things that they are finding. So there's maps and keys to where the tunnels are, and different strategies that Hamas has and ways of being able to break it. And what Israel's doing is they're matching the information that they get from the interrogations with the documents that they're finding, whether it's maps or files, and they're matching it against both of them to be able to corroborate and make sure that the information is valid. So that's one way that Israel is gaining in those areas. Thousands of more soldiers have been brought into Gaza. So as Israel clears the way with special forces and tanks, it enables more soldiers to pile in, which gives back to the soldiers that are moving forward and allows Israel again to keep control of a lot of the different areas and different territories that they're fighting. There have been a lot of terrorists inside of Judea and Samaria here in Israel, what you might be more familiar with the term West Bank, and Israel has conducted a lot of arrests of terrorists here in this area. You're going to hear on the news of more terror attacks taking place in this area in Judea and Samaria. It's not that there are actually more attacks. You should understand that Palestinians attempt between 3 and 6 terror attacks every single day for the last 20 odd years here in Judea and Samaria. Obviously, almost all of them are stopped, or else life would be unbearable here. But what's going to happen now is the media is going to be paying more attention to it. So don't get fooled by the headlines into thinking that it's become more dangerous here. It's not dangerous here at all, and it's not any more dangerous today more than any other time. Just what we are concerned about in this area are different forms of attacks. So you'll see that there's going to be headlines of somebody that's caught with a knife, or somebody that tries stabbing somebody. And these attacks are things that happen in a regular basis. But what we are worried about, we are concerned about, are the Palestinians getting into their minds that if they attack like a south type of attack, but here in Judea and Samaria instead, that could happen, in which case that would cause great conflict. We haven't seen signs of mass attacks, but we have seen signs of, let's say, 10 people coming up to a town to try to attack them. Obviously, they've been unsuccessful to this point, or else that would be major news stories. So in that sense, just be aware of what you're seeing in the news isn't reflective of reality or the mood here. Okay, something fascinating and good news. Jordan was able to airdrop supplies into Gaza. That's good, because that'll show Jordan can have a positive effect instead of just vilifying Israel all the time. So that was with Israeli coordination. They flew a plane probably right over our house on the way to Gaza and airdropped supplies down, and hopefully that went to regular Gazans and not to Hamas. Okay, November 14th, for those that are living in America, Whatever you can do, please get to the November 14th rally. I can't tell you how important this is. It is going to be inspiring for Israelis to see. Israelis don't know that this is happening. It hasn't made the news here yet that there's going to be a rally in Washington. We need everybody there. This is so important for members of Congress to see, for the American people to see how many people are pro-Israel. In Israel, all we see are images of marches. In this past Shabbat in Washington, there was a march against Israel. There's a march against Israel almost every week in London. There's a massive rally planned on November 11th in London. And while you might not feel it, we feel it here. And for us to see a rally of that large, of that proportions, of 1 million people in Washington, I have to tell you that just unless you have something major going on in your life, there really can be no excuse for not being there. This is the role that you play outside of Israel. So please get to Washington on November 14th for the rally. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, Google November 14th rally in favor of Israel, Washington, D.C., and you'll see the information. Okay, on bad news, so we have, this is mostly to do with the U.S.-Israel relationship. We're watching as more pressure is being put on Israel by the Biden administration for either a pause in fighting or a switch in weaponry, switch in tactics. All this in the attempts to make life easier on innocent Palestinians. So far, the Israelis have rejected American requests. And for good reason, because they would harm our efforts at defeating our enemies, bringing safety and security to the land of Israel. And as grateful as we are to the Biden administration for all the support that it's given, we don't need the pressure. We don't need to be told how to fight wars. We don't need to be told how to protect civilians. What we do need is full support and not pressure. That's incredibly important. Okay. We also see that American troops have been attacked. There have been 46 injuries that have come onto American soldiers from Iranian drones, either Iranian proxies, and these are Americans inside the Middle East, not in Israel, in other areas, Americans stationed in Iraq, Americans stationed in different places that have been under attack from Iran. I don't know what the calculus is that the Biden administration and the Pentagon is making in not having a strong show of force against these attacks. I don't know why the United States of America isn't fighting back. They have, or in a major way to deter these attacks. I know they're not doing enough to deter the attacks because the attacks keep happening. So I'm not sure why. It's making America look weak in the region. They have all these ships that are out here, the aircraft carriers and the carrier groups that are out here, and all the planes, and yet Iran essentially looks like it's getting away with these attacks. I don't know if America is doing something secretly against Iran that they're not releasing, and that they're really hitting Iran hard. I don't know. I wouldn't know about it. But the attacks keep happening, and it for the average person in the region, it's making America look weak. The State Department just so you understand, the State Department is like the foreign ministry in America. It's the department that's directly under the administration that handles foreign relations. And they have diplomats that work for the State Department. Now, generally what happens, this is a generalization, but it's usually true. If people want to dedicate their lives to the United States of America and make a career out of helping the United States of America and serving the United States of America, generally, right-wing individuals who are also pro-Israel will generally go into the Defense Department. And left-wing people who are not in favor of Israel, and again, I'm not saying left-wing people can't be in favor of Israel, I can't say right-wing people can't be anti-Israel, I'm making generalizations here, but they're largely true, will work for the State Department. So the State Department has traditionally, from the 1930s and on, been populated by straight-out anti-Semites, and then once the State of Israel was built, anti-Israel people, and they have leaked a memo that was written against the Secretary of State's policies and against the Biden administration's policies as being to Israel. What they would like to see is more criticism of Israel expressed by the United States government, meaning by President Biden and by Secretary Blinken. They feel that Israel is not getting criticized enough, and they would like to see settler violence, which you addressed in previous videos, and land takeovers being put down. it is clear that the State Department has no idea what's going on here, and that these people are just speaking from their bias and not from information. Okay, that's all the news I have. Let's answer some questions that we have. The first question is, how's Israel going to detect terrorists? I assume that means inside of Gaza. How does Israel do that? Through various different means, and first and foremost is by seeing somebody with a gun. That's how they do it. Okay. Is Iran the main funders for this, or other countries are involved like Saudi Arabia and Qatar? Saudi Arabia is not a funder of terror. Qatar does fund Hamas, as does Iran. So you have Iran and Qatar are the funders of Hamas. Now, Qatar has traditionally funded Hamas with the Israeli government's blessing. Bibi Netanyahu has always heavily criticized for allowing the transfer of $15 million a month in cash to be transferred through Israel to Hamas into the Gaza Strip in suitcases, like out of a movie. So they are the main funders. Do you think the IDF hasn't found any hostages, or they're not publicly talking about it, which could put the other hostages at risk? No, I don't think there's. You always hear these like conspiracy theories that all the hostages are fine and they're all out and they're in some secret location, or some of the hostages have been freed. There's no way that would be kept secret. It wouldn't happen. So no, I don't believe that's true. You mentioned that many tunnels were destroyed. Will that have any impact on preventing Hamas from storing their weapons and attacking Israel? Yeah, every single tunnel that we destroy, we make sure that weakens Hamas, because they have one less place to hide, one less place to store weapons, one less place to put hostages. So we've got and one less avenue that they could use to attack us. What do you think is the most damaging cause for misinformation that's been spread across the world? And how can Israel possibly fix this problem, or at least limit it, since misinformation leads to supporting the wrong side? Yeah, so I always vacillate. I go back and forth between whether or not the misinformation that you find on social media actually has any effect. I don't know. I'm not sure. Obviously, we want everybody on our side, but I'm not sure the tangible, concrete ways it stops or helps Hamas. I don't know. I'm not sure. In the United States, we obviously would like popular support to be behind Israel, so members of Congress will vote and the president will vote for Israel. But I have many studies that I've shown and projections that I've shown that show that American foreign policy, especially at the presidential level, has never gone along with what the American people are feeling in polls and what they're saying in polls. So you have times where the American people are tremendously pro-Israel, and the president of the United States doesn't carry out pro-Israel policies. And you have the other way as well, where the American people are down on Israel, and the president of the United States does positive things. The president of the United States works out of a national security interest of the United States, and usually has a much broader picture than just what the local polls are saying. So I'm not sure how much effort we really should be putting into putting out misinformation, because I'm not sure how much of an effect that really has. Okay. What technology does Israel use to detect outer space missiles? So interesting. So what the question is referring to is the Houthim fired what's called an intercontinental ballistic missile. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. That goes into outer space and then comes back down. If I get my terminology wrong, I apologize. So there's various different things that satellites and radar that can detect a missile launch, and then by the way the missile was launched, detect where what its trajectory is and where it's going to land. So that's what's being used. Okay, do you think the IDF knows where the hostages are, or they just don't have an exact way to get them, or they don't know where they are? I don't think that we have a specific location where they are. They definitely have intelligence information. Prime Minister Netanyahu gave an interview with ABC News last night, and it said that they have information, but they're not going to be sharing it. Okay. Why does the United States have to feel balanced or not be too pro-Israel if other religions also live in Israel? It's a great question. Why it is that a lot of it's political. A lot of it is that President Biden feels the pressure from forces within his own party that are not pro-Israel that he has to placate and make sure that they feel that he's listening to them. So he'll take certain steps that he feels are not so anti-Israel in order to balance it out. But that's usually what it is. It's usually political. It's usually that if President Biden comes out too pro-Israel, then people get upset. That's what we saw with the State Department memo and different forces going the other way that he tries to balance out. As you mentioned that the hostages are alive, do you think that they're in good health? I certainly hope so. Also, how long will it take for us to be able to rescue everybody trapped in Gaza? We're not sure how long it's going to take, and we don't know the exact health. But it's not in Hamas's interest to have people that are injured, because then they have to treat them, and it's not in Hamas's interest to have people dead, hostages dead, because those hostages are not what Israel is going to be bargaining for. You mentioned that the Israeli army has taken out many of the Gaza members. Have some of those members been innocent civilians or all terrorists? So there are innocent civilians that obviously are killed. It's a war effort, and we don't know exact numbers because there's no way of knowing numbers because Hamas lies. Hamas says that over 10,000 innocent civilians have been killed, but we know that those are also terrorists that are killed. So we don't know how many, and we don't even know if 10,000 is an accurate number. Hamas makes stuff up and calls it the Gaza Health Ministry, and we all know that it's a lie. We just don't know. We can't figure out what the extent of the lie is because we have no way of knowing. There's no other agency that's reporting how many people have died, and if they did, they would not be allowed to go against Hamas. Okay. Does Israel not have any technology that's able to detect tunnels or people in the ground under them so they wouldn't get flanked from behind? If not, what ways will they implement now that they know that all these tunnels are much better to help them? So Israel does have technology that can detect tunnels. I don't know how the technology works, and obviously it's not technology that's foolproof, or else we know where all the tunnels are. So it obviously only works in some areas, and some areas it doesn't. It could be you have to be right on top of the tunnel to know, like sort of like a metal detector where it detects the tunnel if it's under you, but if it's not under you, they can't detect it from far away. Okay, what can global Jewish communities do to support efforts for the safe release of hostages held by Hamas? Is there any way to ensure their well-being during the conflict? So call your member of Congress, call your senator, tell them to put pressure on releasing the hostages. That way, that'll become a priority. Come to the rally on November 14th, and that's really what we could do. Okay, is there a way to prevent and support the Israeli army so that it is working on freeing them? Is there a way to prevent Hamas from sneaking behind the soldiers through the use of the tunnels, possibly using air support or having troops in high places? Yeah, so we try to do as much as we can. Obviously, the Israeli army, has thought of the ideas of how to stop. The key is detecting the tunnels. That's obviously the key way of stopping Hamas from using tunnels to sneak up from behind Israel, and trying to find tunnels that after we go through land. Trying to find those tunnels. Okay. Do you think it's possible to block the tunnels that Hamas is using from coming into Israel? Wouldn't that prevent many of them from coming in, or at least hold them? Okay, so Hamas are not having tunnels. It used to be a couple of years ago, Hamas had tunnels that were dug into Israel and able to come up into Israel. Those tunnels don't exist anymore because Israel can detect them because they can find them in Israel. So as far as we know, those don't exist anymore. Israel's detected them and destroyed them. These are tunnels that are going from point A to point B inside of Gaza, and sometimes point B is behind Israeli soldiers after they've advanced. So that's so then they're able to pop up from behind. Okay. Okay. So then, how do you think the destruction of the tunnels is going to affect the Palestinians during this war? The destruction of tunnels makes sure that Palestinian terrorists can't get around in Gaza, so it weakens them. Okay, could Israel possibly reach agreements about some of the terror groups in Gaza aside from Hamas? No, we don't want to reach agreements with terror organizations. Those days are done. We're not reaching agreements with terrorist organizations. We're defeating, killing, and eliminating terrorist organizations. So we're not having deals with them. And also, if you made a deal with a different terrorist organization than Hamas, how much is that deal worth? Right? Because you still have Hamas. You still have Hamas fighting. So. Okay, have any Israeli officials made any indication of plans to invade the West Bank? No, we are I'm in the West Bank. We don't need to invade the West Bank. I live in the West Bank. I live in Judea and Samaria. Israel doesn't invade the West Bank. Israeli soldiers are already in the West Bank. We control Judea. The West Bank is also Judea and Samaria is another name. We control it, so we don't have to invade it. We're here already. Okay. what role what role does the Arab Israeli political parties like Ram taken? What role have they taken? So Ram is a Arab party. There are Arab political parties in Israel because we are a democracy, so we allow all citizens to vote and have whatever representatives. We're the only probably parliament in the world that has people that declare themselves anti the country. Ram is an Arab party, an Arab Israeli party inside the Knesset, and the Ram party, what it does is it sort of toes the line of Arabs, but it's how to put this. It's not a Zionist party, but it's not anti-Israel. Let's put it that way. And Mansour Abbas, who's the leader of the party, just did something incredible. He silenced one of the members of his party who had claimed that the rapes weren't real. Okay. And censured her for that. Okay, how many countries and people from around the world helped to bring back the kidnapped individuals by Hamas? An interesting question, which normally I would have said doesn't really make any sense, but news just broke that the Taiwanese might be not Taiwanese, sorry, the Thailandese might be negotiating with Iran to get their members of Hamas, their hostages from Hamas back. Okay, I just want to see if I can. There's one more question that somebody sent me. I'll see if I can find it. Give me 1 second here. Okay. Have any Hamas terrorists that have been captured by the Israeli military forces since the start of this war not been taken out right away, rather been taken to Israeli prisons? Yeah, like exactly as we started talking about in the beginning of this video, that there have been members of Hamas that have been captured and interrogated. Okay, what is there a plan for the future of these terrorists in the prisons, such as execution, or has a new sentence been set? So Israel has not announced that it's going to start executing terrorists. I wish they would after a trial, like death sentence, just like you have in the United States. But so far it seems like anybody captured will just sit in prison for a while. Okay, that is the end of today's video. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. Hope that we have peace, victory, and our hostages come home safely. So.